Pavracharya Sutta Sata Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavracharya Asota Sata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Shri Gonitai Ki Shri Shri Radha Govardhandari Ki Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Giri Govardhan Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Can you hear me okay? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Good evening. Tonight will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavad-gita, chapter 2, text 51. Kama jambudi yukta hi phalam tyakta manisina janma bandha vinrimukta param gachanti anam ayam. Kama jambudi yukta hi phalam tyakta manishina janma bandha vinimukta param gachanti anamayam. Kama jambudi yukta hi phalam tyakta manashina janma bandha vinimukta param gachanti anamayam. Kama jambuti yukta hi phalam tyakta manishanaha janma bandha vinimukta param gachanti anamayam. Word for word. Karmajam, due to fruitive activities. Buddhi yukta, being engaged in devotional service. He, certainly, phalam, results, tyakva, giving up, manishanha, great sages or devotees, janma bandha, from the bondage of birth and death, vinamukta, liberated. Padam, position. Gachanti, they reach. Anamayam, without miseries. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. Purport. The liberated living entities belong to that place where there are no material miseries. The Bhagavatam 10.14.58 says, "For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of mukti, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's footprint, param padam, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikuntha, is his goal, not the place where there is danger in every step of life. Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance only, less intelligent persons try to adjust to the situation by fruitive activities, thinking that the resultant actions will make them happy. They do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. The miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and diseases, are present everywhere within the material world. But one who understands his real constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikuntha planets, where there is neither material, miserable life, nor the influence of time and death. To know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. One who wrongly thinks that the living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level is to be understood to be in darkness and therefore unable to engage himself in devotional service of the Lord. He becomes a Lord himself and thus paves the way for the repetition of birth and death. But one who, understanding that his position is to serve, transfers himself to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible for Vaikuntha Loka. Service for the cause of the Lord is called Karma Yoga or Buddha Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service. Om Gantamarandasya Gananjana Shadakaya Chakshuvanmilitam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yene Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kiramayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagatam Sahagana Raginafitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savutam Parigan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganalita Shri Vishkaham Sitams Cha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishubhanu Sate Devi Pranamani Hari Praye Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripa Sindhu Evicha Patina Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadha Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for coming for our Tuesday night Bhagavad-gita class. Every Tuesday night we read from the Bhagavad-gita. The Srila Prabhupada's his desire when establishing temples is that every day we read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the evenings we gather again together and we read and share the knowledge of the Bhagavad-gita. And therefore, by doing so, we keep ourselves, free from miseries, which is, we may have to suffer through so many things in this world, but if we keep ourselves in the lightness, the lightness of knowledge, the torchlight of knowledge, then we can, as this verse will explain, we can quite easily cross beyond these problems, these miseries of life that we have to go through. So before I begin, I'd like to seek the blessings that I can say something that's truthful, something that's pleasing and beneficial to all of us tonight, and ultimately something that best represents the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. So the Bhagavad-gita is Krishna's words. These are Krishna's instructions. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's speaking to Arjuna, but ultimately he wants to speak to every single one of us simultaneously. And this chapter that we're on at the moment, chapter 2, which we're just past halfway, we're nearly towards the end of it now. It's a long chapter, but this chapter is entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized. And so that's basically what it is. Krishna gives just about everything just in this chapter. That nearly all the knowledge and all the philosophy is contained in this one chapter. So it's kind of like, someone might come to the temple, for the first time, and then, you share the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to them. You give it to them all in like 10 minutes. So it's sort of like that. Arjuna's on the battlefield in this distressed condition. And so Krishna just tells him as it is, as much as he can in one go. So just this chapter alone, he could have nearly finished the Bhagavad-gita just in this chapter. It's all just about there. But from then on, Arjuna still had a few doubts and a few queries he wanted clearing up. So similar to us, we might come to the temple and for the first time and hear from a devotee the knowledge of the philosophy, but we might, after hearing it all in one go, we might walk away scratching our heads, wondering what it was all about. So therefore the Gita continues for another 16 chapters. But this chapter is quite unique in that way, in that it basically summarizes the whole book. So Krishna has been speaking to Arjuna, and he's been explaining Buddhi Yoga. So Buddhi means intelligence. So just prior to that, he was giving all the knowledge to Arjuna in terms of his identity, explaining to him that he's an eternal spirit soul, and he's living in a temporary material body in this material world. So the nature of this spirit soul, the true self, our true identity, is that we're Satchit Ananda. We're eternal, we're fully cognizant, and we're blissful. So that's our true nature. That's who we are. And so Krishna's explained this to Arjuna, and so therefore, intelligence, Buddhi Yoga, means to put this knowledge into practice. It's not just theoretical knowledge. It's not just book knowledge that we read or that we talk about, or it's actually meant to be performed. It's meant to be understood in such a way. It's meant to be realized. So it's like that when we come to spiritual life, learning knowledge is a little different as to what we've been used to in material life. We would have gone through school and also perhaps university, and we might have learnt so many things. But the material life, when we're studying, we study something and then that's it. We've learnt it, tick the box, and so going to school and university is sort of like that. It's about sort of just turning up, ticking the boxes, getting a pass mark, and then getting on with your life, going out, getting a job, and just enjoying life. But when you come to spiritual life, it's a lot different. So we study, or we read this Bhagavad-gita, but we not only read it, but we study it, and not only once we've read it, we go back and read it again, and again, and again, and again, and you're continuously reading. It's lifelong lessons that you can never ever think that you know or completely know or understand the Bhagavad-gita. There's always new realizations that can be had by studying, and that's what makes it ever fresh. Spiritual learning, spiritual life is ever fresh. You can just continue to read the same thing over and over and again, and that's what makes it so beautiful. So we're not here just to tick the box and say, yes, I've read Bhagavad-gita, I've studied Bhagavad-gita, I've memorized so many slokas. One time someone went to Srila Prabhupada and said, I can memorize the whole Bhagavad-gita in 45 minutes. And Prabhupada looked back at this person and said, very good, but can you live it? Can you live the Bhagavad-gita in 45 minutes? So the idea is that the Bhagavad-gita is our life. We're supposed to be living this knowledge. So when we study the Bhagavad-gita, learning spiritual knowledge is kind of like a spiral. Material knowledge is okay, you're just learning and you move on, get on with life. But we continue to study the same books, and it just goes, and we go round and round and round and round like a spiral. Eventually we get closer and closer to the center of that circle, where we're getting closer and closer to the essence of what's being said. So spiritual learning's like that. And we also understand that learning this knowledge is best done in association, done with others who are also trying to learn it. So therefore we can discuss it. So we can come here together in this temple before Srila Prabhupada, and we can discuss the Bhagavad-gita, we can question it, we can try and get to the essence of it by sharing each other's realizations. And not only that, obviously, yeah, we want to apply it. We want to, learn from what it's saying and going out in the world and applying it, and then experiencing the knowledge of the Gita playing out in our own lives, and then becomes realized. And so the Bhagavad-gita is kind of like a guidebook to life. It's like a manual. It's like a life manual or a companion, your constant companion that stays with you. And when you're living in the world, you constantly reflect back on the Bhagavad-gita, and then you go back to it's amazing how sometimes you can just go back to the Bhagavad-gita and be like, this is true. Every single thing Krishna is saying when I look at my own life and I look around and I live in the world, and you can go back in the Bhagavad-gita and understand what Krishna is saying is so true. And then when you get that faith that it's true, then the Bhagavad-gita goes into the deepest space in your heart, and you can actually start to realize the Bhagavad-gita in your own life. So it's like that we have to awaken our inner Arjuna. We're all Arjuna. We're all in the same position. We're all suffering in this material world in so many ways, like Arjuna was. We have to awaken that inner Arjuna and realize that Krishna is instructing us and helping us and guiding us to return back to him. So in the previous verses, Krishna has been explaining the laws of nature. Or other words, the science of karma. So we understand karma, most people in the world, they sort of beginning to understand, something about karma. It's not such a, new topic. So karma is basically, for every action there's an equal or opposite reaction. I heard there's a new restaurant in town. It's called Karma. There's no menu. You get what you deserve. So that's karma. For every action, you get a reaction. So there's good karma, there's good action. You perform a good action, you get a good reaction. You perform a bad or sinful action, you get a sinful reaction. It's quite simple, like that. But yeah, then there's something higher than that. Then there's performing, spiritual actions, and therefore by doing, you can clear all sins. You can clear all the reactions that are there, awaiting to cause you suffering. So therefore we can live a life of freedom, a karma-free life, as they say. There's not just good or bad actions and reactions. Even good actions and good reactions are also bad, because there's an action. And we want to try and stop all reactions, put a stop to sinful reactions, whether it be good or bad. Both are not desirable for a spiritualist, because it causes bondage, and we have to serve out those actions in this world. So we want to be free from reactions, free from karma, live a karma-free life, good or bad. So therefore we need to come to the spiritual platform. So this is achieved by yoga, and the word yoga these days has somewhat lost its soul, because yoga people seem to think is the physical activity, touching your head to your toes, that sort of thing. But the real meaning of yoga is actually to connect. And what are we trying to connect? We're trying to connect ourselves, the true self, the spirit soul. And we're trying to connect the spirit soul to the supreme spirit soul, which is Krishna. And so that's what yoga is. And we can do that in all of our activities, whatever work that we do. So if we perform whatever work, whatever activities in this world, and if we do it connecting that to Krishna, which means to try to satisfy and please him, with detachment to the result, that is yoga. So this detachment, Krishna's also trying to teach us detachment. So, because everyone in the world, they're so obsessed about success, obsessed about the results of their activities, trying to get a good result, to try and be happy, and so people get so worked up and they're full of anxieties because they're just, all they're thinking about is, how can I be successful? How can I be happy? How can I enjoy? But Krishna says you don't have to worry about any of those things. He says you just focus on the process. So this is because that's all we can do ultimately. All we can do is just focus on the process, and the result is up to Krishna. We're not in control of the result anyway. So if we, deeply understand this is the most basic, simple instruction Krishna gives in the Bhagavad-gita. Starting from here, all the way through, he continues to tell Arjuna to work with detachment. Chapter 3, chapter 5. And by doing that, you're already a success because you're focused on the process, and you eliminate all the stress and anxiety because the result's up to Krishna. It's not in our control anyway, so we just must focus on the process, and therefore you're already a success. So karma is an interesting topic. It's a very, complicated and deep subject matter, but at the same time it's quite simple, because karma is always happening. It's playing out in our lives each and every moment. And, who we are, where we've come from, it's all karma. Nothing happens by chance. Every single event, every single experience, every single person, everything that's happening in your life is happening for a reason. And ultimately, karma is, we think of karma as being good or bad, good actions, bad actions, good actions, reactions, and good and bad reactions. But what is the purpose of karma? The real purpose of karma is to help educate us. It's an educational way to help us to teach valuable lessons and then ultimately learn from those lessons so that we can get to achieve our ultimate happiness. So we all want to be happy. So understanding the laws of karma and transcending those by practicing yoga, we can achieve that, ultimate, transcendental, eternal, everlasting happiness which we're all seeking for. So this world that we live in is like a cosmic university. It's an educational place. We learn from good and bad actions. A spiritual-minded person, they don't think, why is this happening to me? They think, what am I supposed to learn from this? And then when you think like that, you become very, very wise. And that's what Krishna's trying to tell Arjuna, is to practice Buddha yoga. Be wise, be intelligent. Don't lament. Because Arjuna was worried about sinful actions. He was thinking that he was going to be performing sinful actions by fighting in this war. But it's quite the opposite. By fighting in this war and doing it as a service to Krishna, he was actually going to transcend karma and bring about ultimate success and happiness. And so we need to remind ourselves like that. We must learn the art of practicing yoga. So when we're performing our daily activities, we should ask ourselves, is this activity that I'm performing right now, is this satisfying my senses? Am I getting sense pleasure out of this? Is this all about me? Or is this actually an activity performed to satisfy Krishna and give pleasure to Krishna? And when we think like that, and remind ourselves that we should be performing our activities for His pleasure, automatically we'll be happy. So to learn this art, we need it. We need teachers, we need guides, ultimately we need a gurus, everyone needs a bona fide guru, a spiritual master, one who comes in disciplic succession. So who is a guru? A guru is someone who knows this, he understands this knowledge, he's realized it. So he knows the way to be happy and successful. So therefore he knows it, he goes it as well. He practices it himself, like Srila Prabhupada. He didn't just know it and teach it. He also applied it in his life. His life is an example for all of us. So a guru is someone who knows the way, he goes the way, and therefore can show the way. So that's a guru, someone who comes in disciplic succession, who's heard from his guru, who's a bona fide guru, who's heard from his guru, who's a bona fide guru. So parampara, all the way down. So someone who's learnt in this way and has understood and realized the knowledge and goes the way and shows the way. That is the person that we need to follow. So in this verse, Krishna is trying to bring Arjuna to devotional service, and therefore he can be happy, therefore he can have ultimate permanent liberation or freedom in his life. So everyone in this world is seeking after freedom. Everyone's wanting to be free. So people seek after freedom in so many ways. They go on holidays, they travel the world, they swim with the dolphins, maybe take intoxication, watch TV, watch movies, or even just go to sleep. People are looking to seek freedom in so many ways. And why? It's so natural for all of us to find that resting place, or that place of freedom. We're all looking for it. But the thing is, the people in this world are seeking after the wrong kind of freedom. They're looking for the right things, but in the wrong places. So all of the freedom within this world is just temporary, and basically it's just a form of escaping. It's not real permanent freedom. So why is everybody trying to escape their lives? Everybody's trying to go. The airports these days are very busy places. People are traveling all around the world trying to find somewhere to go where they can be happy. C.S. Lewis, he once said, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience of this world can fulfill, I must conclude I was made for another world." So when we hear the knowledge of the Bhagavad-gita, it starts to, give us the knowledge that, perhaps we are not really meant to be here in this world. This is not our true home. So it doesn't really matter what plans, what arrangements you try to make within this world, you'll never ever be happy. You'll never ever find permanent freedom, because it'll never satisfy the soul. It'll never satisfy what we're really, really looking for. And therefore, Krishna is explaining what real freedom is. So what is real freedom? What is real freedom? Krishna in the verse, and also Prabhupada in the purport, is explaining real freedom is to be free from the cycle of birth and death. So we've been trapped in this cycle of birth and death for goodness knows how long. So it's been birth, death, in between old age and disease. And again, birth, death, in between we're suffering, old age and disease. And this has been going on and on and on and on and on. And so there's so many miserable things happening to us in this material world. In fact, in the purport, I counted, Srila Prabhupada mentioned the word miserable or misery 6 times. So really reminding us this place is a place of miseries. And what are we doing here? This is not a place to be happy. Does anyone ever experience miseries from time to time? Yeah, I know throughout my life I've always experienced miseries. And, when you get together with a group of friends, I remember before becoming a devotee, catching up with friends and family, and still, when I do catch up with friends and family outside of here, that's all you talk about. You ask how each other are, and then you just say, you explain to each other what you've been happy with, what's going well in your life, the happiness, and then you talk about the suffering, the miseries, and that's all it is. You're just discussing the happiness and the miseries of this world, because this is what this world is all about, sukha dukkha, happiness and distress. And there's not much else to talk about. I remember, there was, just before becoming a devotee, I was suffering from more miseries than I was happiness. And so then I was getting together with my friends and catching up, and then, because I was suffering so much, that was what I was talking about. And there was no real, it was nice just to be able to share, how I was feeling with people, but, what's the solution, because all they would say is that there's something I remember some of my mates would say, they would say, you just got to roll with the punches. You heard that? You got to roll with the punches. And so I was like, okay, I got to roll with the punches, but for how long? And, is there any solution to this? Because that's what this world is meant for. It's meant to come to the conclusion as to why am I suffering? Is there any ultimate solution to this? Do I just have to just roll with the punches again and again? So Prabhupada, he quotes a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the verse explaining that there's danger at every step. So this is what this world is about. There's problems or miseries or sufferings coming at us, from every which angle, and they can happen at any moment, at any time, even when we least expect it. So it's a very dangerous place. I remember a few years ago, I was in a car accident, and I was driving along the Tweed Valley Way, and I was probably doing, maybe 80 kilometers an hour or something. So it was a pretty high speed, hit. And so I was driving along, and the person in front of me, he sort of just decided he wanted to turn around. And, there's double white lines. There's no U-turn there. And so he sort of just deviated off to the left a bit and then spun around. And I was like right behind him. So I just, all I had was a moment to think, this could be it, so I was just like, we'll just bang. It was a heavy hit. But I fortunately come out of it all right, and he was okay as well. But that was just a reminder. And then and after this incident, luckily I was okay. The car was a write-off. But, I come back. I got picked up from a devotee came and picked me up from in town, and I came back to the farm. And then what the devotees would say is so many of them said, this material world is dangerous. There's danger at every step. Many people said that to me. I was like, it's true. The devotees are very wise. It's a dangerous place, this material world. We have to. So what Krishna and Prabhupada is trying to explain to us, that we have to understand our true position. It's not until we begin to understand who we are and our constitutional position that we can actually go beyond these miseries. And so who are we? We're actually eternal servitors of the Lord. And then when we actually understand this, naturally we engage in transcendental devotional service, loving devotional service to the Lord. So this is intelligence. An intelligent person to come to this conclusion, why am I suffering? What is the solution? And Krishna, he says a bit later in the Bhagavad-gita, one of my favorite verses, and I haven't memorized it yet, but he says in the fifth chapter, he'll say, Yehi samspasa jaboga dukkha yunaya evatate adi antantavanta kuntaya natesuramati buddhaha. So he says, someone who has buddhi, someone who is wise, someone who is intelligent, they don't mess around, they don't try to enjoy this world anymore. They don't bother with it, they don't waste their energy in trying to enjoy, separately in this world anymore. And why? Because they understand this place is a place of miseries. They understand that when you try to enjoy this world, there's a beginning and there's an end. There's no everlasting happiness. So therefore, if you try to enjoy this world, you'll end up just feeling miserable and you'll feel let down. So someone who is intelligent, they've realized this, and you just feel completely, lost in life and disconnected. So this is what's happening to so many people in this world. It's kind of like the analogy of, sometimes you might sweep the floor at home or in the temple, or even, I mow the lawns around the place. Sometimes you might just come across, a pin or a screw or a bottle cap or something like that, just lying there. And you think, there's no value to that. If I just swept the floor and I found a pin, and the pin's just there, what to do with it? It's lost. And so our lives have become like that. We've become disconnected. We've become lost. We're like that screw or that pin that's just, fallen from somewhere and it's just lying there useless. So, it's not until you get that screw or that pin, you find where it came from and you reconnect it. And so our lives are like that. It's not until we realize or understand our constitutional position and reconnect ourselves through the practice of yoga that there's any real, happiness or great value to our lives. Otherwise, we're just lost like that, useless pin or screw or bottle cap, that's just been left lying around. So, So Prabhupada explains, one who understands that his position is to serve, he transfers himself to service of the Lord and at once becomes eligible for Vaikuntha Loka. So that's where we're heading, that's where we want to go, Vaikuntha Loka in the spiritual sky. Vaikuntha, the word Vaikuntha means a place where there's no anxieties. So we're living in Kuntha. Kuntha means a place full of anxieties, but the spiritual world is known as Vaikuntha, a place where there's no anxieties. So that's where we're trying to go towards, simply by practicing this devotional service. So basically all it really needs is a change of consciousness. It's not like we completely change our lifestyle or change our activities. It's more about changing the consciousness as to what's motivating us and why we're doing this. We're not doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. And so that's a spiritual consciousness. That can very easily be achieved simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So this Hare Krishna Maha mantra is a spiritual sound vibration, and immediately it can begin to remind us of who we actually really are. It reminds us that we are spiritual beings and I have nothing to do with this world. I'm on the longer journey, just passing through, just here for some time. But ultimately, by chanting this Maha mantra, we're trying to elevate our consciousness to get ourselves out of this place of misery. So this world is just like a transit lounge. We're just here for some time, not here for long at all, really. This life is just one chapter, and we've had millions and millions of chapters. We have to understand that this life is just one chapter. And here today, gone tomorrow. It goes very quickly. So we must not waste our opportunity at practicing or performing devotional service and chanting this Maha Mantra with attention. Because this is the way that we can actually realize true happiness and real freedom. And that's what we want to try and get back to. So Krishna, he promises this. He says in the 8th chapter, he says, after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. So when we've perfected this yoga system and we've become completely pure, therefore we can be taken back. Krishna will come and take us back to where we belong. So Krishna is telling this to Arjuna, and he's also, ultimately he's not just telling it to Arjuna, he's telling it to every single person. He's telling it to us. He says perform. He's actually saying 3 things in this verse. Just in this one verse, he's saying 3 instructions. So the first thing is he says is that by performing Buddha yoga or devotional service, you can free yourself from reactions in this work in this world. So by performing devotional service, you free yourself from reactions, and then what will happen? Well, from there, you break the cycle of birth and death. So we've been going birth, death, old age and disease. But by performance of devotional service, we break this cycle. We finally break this cycle. And then what? What happens after that? Well, where are we going? Then he says, after you've done that, you attain the state beyond all miseries by going back home, back to Godhead, where we belong. So he's saying all this just in this one verse. And then Srila Prabhupada, our guru, our guide, our teacher, our inspiration, our fearless leader, he is further explaining and emphasizing the same point. And he is saying simply by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord through devotional service, we will find real everlasting freedom. And this basically is the secret to ending all miseries of this world. So when we look around, we see everyone in the world is basically just racing around, this world is like a rat race. Everybody's just going mad after sense gratification, trying to, arrange and create a beautiful life for themselves. But they're focusing purely on the externals. But someone who is wise, someone who has intelligence, you know what they do? They put the emphasis within, because that's where it's at. So someone who puts the emphasis within, someone who purifies and cleanses their heart, they know by performing this devotional service unto the Supreme Lord that they will find eternal bliss and happiness and love and return home back to the spiritual world. So that's what we try to do. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll finish there and see if there's any comments or questions that you might want to ask, or any corrections or anything you want to know more about or discuss. Ask later or person? All right, maybe after. All right, yeah. Sounds good. All right, we might stop there, or do you want?
I had a question.
Okay. Yes.
In the purport,
Yeah.
the last line, there was I just anyway in the purport last line, the Buddhi yoga and Karma yoga are mentioned as in same is the same thing.
Yeah.
But is there any difference?
Yeah, it's interesting that it's put that way. Yeah, it says service for the cause of the Lord is called karma yoga or buddhi yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord. So there is subtle differences. Karma means activity. So the idea is to perform activities for the service of the Lord, and that's intelligence. So in a sense, it's the same thing, because people who perform actions for themselves, that's unintelligent. So essentially, it's, in one sense you could say it's the same thing. Karma yoga, well, karma actually means activity, and buddhi means the intelligence. But someone who is intelligent, they practice karma yoga. They practice yoga in general. They connect everything to Krishna in devotional service. And even, it says, at the end, in plain words, devotional service. So we know devotional service generally as bhakti yoga. So bhakti yoga is the highest, the topmost of the yoga. So, bhakti yoga is the heart of the whole yoga system. And so you can also look at it as a progression. Buddhi yoga is more so intelligence. You're performing your activities, you're performing karma yoga with intelligence. And intelligence means to perform it for the satisfaction of Krishna. But by practicing that, the purification comes, purification of the heart. And then you're not just practicing it out of intelligence, but ultimately, with a cleansed, pure heart, you're practicing it out of pure love. And that's bhakti yoga. So in one sense, they're all the same thing, but there is a bit of my understanding anyway, is that there's a progression there. We want to come to the platform of pure devotional service, bhakti yoga. The Bhagavad-gita is ultimately teaching us how to perform pure devotional service, but for that we need to at least have some intelligence. And so, the intelligent person, as I was explaining in a class, they understand, they come to the realization that this world, it's not really what I thought it was, or, it's a place of suffering and miseries. So therefore, let me, try a different way, rather than trying harder and harder to satisfy myself and my senses for my own selfish happiness. An intelligent person thinks, okay, maybe I'll try something different. Maybe I'll, work for the satisfaction of others, and ultimately work for the satisfaction and the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And when someone turns their attention to that, that's intelligence. And ultimately, by constant engagement in devotional service, eventually, the purification will come, and it'll become, just, pure devotional service, a service that's done out of just love, and that's what we're all seeking for. Ultimately, everybody's looking for love, and the only real way to find love is through devotional service to the Supreme Lord. There's no other way. There's no other way to experience real love in this world. The real love comes through Krishna. So we want to come to that stage of performing our devotional service, not only with knowledge and detachment and intelligence, but we want to come to the platform of performing our devotional service because we love the person that we perform it for, and that's real service. Is that okay? Yeah. All right. I might stop there. Thank you all so much for your kind attention. Bhagavad-gita ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna.